Okay. Hola, me llamo doctora Strickland. Yo soy la profesora de la clase. Um, yo soy de Douglasville, Georgia. Yo tengo 44 años. Mi cumpleaños es el 7 de diciembre y hay 4 personas en mi familia. Okay, so I wanted to come on and share like a review of chapter 1. And I'm going to pull up the book. Remember that the book is in lessons. I'm going to go over some things in chapter 1. I actually just did the Zoom and didn't hit record. So I guess that was my practice round. So the book is Adelante, and it is in lessons, and I've downloaded mine and saved it so I can pull it up, but I highly recommend that you print it too if you're able to. I also posted a link for the Quizlet. Excuse me, if you're not if you're not accustomed to Quizlet, you don't know what it is. It's a vocabulary. It's free, it's vocabulary practice, and it also has the pronunciation of the words. I also even went in and did a folder where it's all the chapter 1 stuff, and then later I'll go in. The chapter 2 things are listed there if you go onto the Quizlet. I posted an announcement, but it's not in order, but it's in the chapter 1 stuff. So that will be all in one place, so you can hear the pronunciations, or if you're doing well with from the lessons and do it that way, that's fine too. So we won't go through how to say all of these. The despedirse doesn't mean despedirse is to say goodbye, but you don't say despedida. To say goodbye, you say one of those. Okay. And then what is your name is como te llamas, and then to say your name, it is just me llamo, because it literally means I call myself. So you don't use es with that. If you want to use es, then you would need to use mi nombre es. But me llamo and then your name is fine, is what you need to do. Otherwise, you're saying I am called is. Okay, here are the numbers up to 100. The numbers I linked on Quizlet do go up to the thousands, just for if you want to know those. So some people were struggling with like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then 16, 17, 20 ends in an E. And then 21, 22, it changes to an I. And then 30, 31, 32. Okay. And then the alphabet. Okay, the Enye, when you're pronouncing the Enye, it is pronounced like an N and a Y together, like in the word canyon. So cumpleaños is cumpleaños. And then the alphabet, I'll go over some of the vowels. The vowels in English, the A, E, I, O, U. The English A in Spanish is A. The English E is A. Okay. The English I is E. O and U. And they're always pronounced like that in all of the words. A, E, O, and U. It's not like English where there's different pronunciations of the A, where it's A. It's just always A. Okay, if it is one L, is pronounced like an L, and then 2 L's is pronounced like a Y. The H, the H is always silent, and a Z always sounds like an S. Okay. And then V is like a B. The book has some links you can go to. Here's your classroom objects. And then and that's how it's pronounced I. And it means there is or there are. And you either use like the number, like hay 5 personas en mi casa, or the indefinite articles, which I'll talk about in a minute, but the una, unos, and unas. Okay. Illogical and logical. Okay. The nouns that I'm people are struggling with, go through and so nouns in Spanish they're either masculine or feminine. And if you've never learned a second language and aren't used to any languages having like masculine and feminine words and having to agree and all that stuff, then you might find this difficult. But Spanish it's either masculine or feminine and then singular or plural. Okay, so it's based on the ending of the word, not on who uses it or anything like that, unless it's people for like chico and chica. Okay, so we're just talking about nouns. If it ends in O, it is usually masculine, like el bolígrafo, el libro. If it ends in A, it is usually feminine. La ventana, la mochila, la silla. Okay. If it ends in ma and pa, then it is also masculine. So it is el mapa, el programa, el problema, el sistema. Okay. Even though it ends in A, it's el mapa, el programa, el sistema. So if it ends in ma and pa, masculine. Some irregulars, dia, it ends in an A, and it's el dia. Okay. And then if it ends in dad and sion, it is also feminine. La universidad, la libertad. If it ends in umbre, it is also feminine. La costumbre for custom. Then some irregulars, la foto, la radio, and la mano. Even though they end in O, they are feminine. And to make it plural, if it ends in a vowel, you just add an S. If it ends in a consonant, you add ES. If it ends in a Z, you change that Z to a C and add ES. And some people are missing this one, like on quizzes and stuff. If it ends in sion, then you will drop that accent before you make it plural. So la nación becomes las naciones. Okay, so in Spanish, there are 4 ways to say the. Okay, so that's what this one is. There are 4 ways to say the, and it's based on if it's masculine, singular, masculine, feminine, singular, and plural. Okay, and we don't have that really in English. We don't have that in English for the. So there are 4 ways: el, la, los, and las. So if it's like el libro, because it's 1, but if it's 2, then it's los libros. If it's feminine, based on the ending, like ventana, la ventana, but if it's plural, las ventanas. When I teach clothing, some people get confused about the clothing, but no, it's still based on the ending. Or if it's a purse and a lady's carrying, or purse still is la bolsa, but like vestido ends in an O, so it is a masculine word. El vestido. Okay. Corbata ends in an A, it is still a feminine word, regardless of who's wearing either of those. Okay, so these all are the, el, la, los, and las. Okay, if it is something like a chico, like a boy, el chico, la chica. Los chicos, las chicas. But other words like when nouns, ventana, silla, libro, cuaderno, you can't change the O to an A or anything like that. So it has to say like el libro. Okay, so these are definite articles because you definitely know it's the. okay? And then the indefinite articles, I like to think of it like, oh, we don't know really which one it is. Okay, non-specific. So you have un, una, unos, and unas. Some people were, it's still the same way, like un libro, unos libros, una ventana, unas ventanas. Okay, if it says something like el cuaderno, the practice activity, and then it was like you changed it to plural, los cuadernos. Some people were doing like el cuaderno and then making it unos cuadernos. But the activity was actually asking for you to keep the definite article definite and just change it to plural and the object to plural. Okay, so here I have the definite articles and I have them listed, el, la, los, and las. Remember your irregulars, if it ends in A, it's usually feminine unless it is ma and pa, that is masculine. Sion is feminine. Dad is feminine. And then mujeres ends in es, so you're like, oh, which one is that one? But that means the women, that is feminine, feminine plural. And then mas ends in ma, and then you add s, so it's masculine plural. And then here your indefinite articles, un, una, unos, and unas. Okay, then we have here our pronouns. So we have yo, tu, and this gives the first, second, and third. I think there's an activity that people had to do that. And you had to write if it was first, second, third person. I drew another chart down here. And with my chart on the left, hopefully y'all can see what I wrote when I'm sharing it. On the left is the singular. So yo, tu, él, ella, usted, those are the singular pronouns. And on the right, you have your plural pronouns. Nosotros, vosotros, ellos, ellas, ustedes. So first person, you're including yourself, I or we. So like I. And then second person, tú, you or you all. And then here, third person, you're talking about someone else. He, she, I know usted and ustedes are still second person, but, and then ellos, ellas. Okay. If it is like Marta and I, Marta y yo, if you're talking about Marta and I, and you don't want to keep saying Marta and I, Marta and I, then you use the pronoun nosotros. And so then when we do conjugations, your conjugations with Marta y yo will be with nosotros. Okay, Miguel y tú, anything in tú, would be with vosotros or ustedes. Okay, there are two ways to say you in Spanish, tú and usted. Tú is informal, and it's with friends or students, things like that. And then usted is a more formal way, or people you don't know. And then vosotros is used in Spain, with the informal, like saying y'all. And then ustedes is more of a formal y'all with like a group of people you don't know, or a group of doctors or anything like that, a group of adults and you're a kid, is with ustedes. But in Mexico, Latin America, and South America, they use ustedes for any group of people that they're talking to. Okay, and then Ana and Maria, that's like ellas. Mario and Miguel, that's like or Mario and Rafael, like ellos. Okay, so it's important to remember that which pronouns it changes to when you get to conjugations. So maybe forms of verbs or conjugations. This is when we're putting the ending of the verbs. Okay, how you're changing out the ending of the verb. So in English, we don't really do that that much. It's just, well, we do with say or some, but if it's regular verbs like I walk, she walks, that's the only endings we have. But in Spanish, each verb has each pronoun or set of pronouns here has an ending. Okay, ser and tener are irregular. In chapter 2, we will talk about regular verbs and like AR verbs, because verbs can either end in AR, ER, and IR. Okay, so here are some irregulars. For yo, it is soy. Tú, it is eres. Él, ella, usted is es. So él, ella, usted, since it's third person singular, we're talking about someone, then that's going to be es if it's one name, if it's mi amigo, el chico, or Ana. Any of those singular things that aren't yo and aren't tú will be es. Okay, nosotros and nosotras are somos. Anything y yo is somos as well. Ana y yo, mi amiga y yo, la profesora y yo. If you're wanting to say are, we are, with we, then it would be somos. Okay, vosotros is sois, or anything y tú. I forgot the y right there. Anything y tú is sois, and then ellos, ellas, and ustedes. That's the abbreviation for ustedes. You don't ever say like uds or anything. It's just ustedes. And that is son. And then two names is son. Mis amigos is son. Los maestros is son. Okay. And then it is not on there because it is not a subject. If you want to say it is, it's just es. Okay. Then I am from. Yo soy de. Gives you some examples of when to use ser. And then here's some practice. I feel like most people got the nosotros and the tú and matching those. But if it says tú y yo, that's like nosotros. So your form of ser goes is somos. And número 4, señora o yola, that's like ella. So your form of ser is es. Ramon, that if you want to replace Miguel and Ramon with a pronoun, it would be ellos. So then your form of ser is son. And then mi amiga, if you want to replace mi amiga with a pronoun, it would be ella. So your form of ser is es. Okay, then moving on to the verb tener. Tener is to have. So like the only way we change to have is like I have, she has, because it's still like I have, you have, we have, they have. But in Spanish, the endings change. So for yo, if you're talking about yourself, it will be tengo. That E always sounds like a, tengo. When we later on the semester, we'll talk about different irregular verbs. Tango is considered a yo-go or a go verb because it ends in go in yo. And then the E also changes to IE. And so it is I'm sorry, make sure I'm still recording. It changes to IE and it's tú tienes, and él, ella, and usted tiene. And then anything singular that it's not just is not yo or tú, like one name, mi amigo, el profesor, tiene. Then nosotros or nosotras is what that should say. Tenemos or anything y yo tenemos. Vosotros or vosotras tenéis or anything y tú tenéis. Ellos, ellos, ustedes tienen. Two names, mis amigos, los maestros, anything plural, tienen. And verbs end in AR, ER, and IR. And when we get to conjugating more verbs, tener is an ER. So most of the verb endings are with E in them, except for the yo. Okay. For age, it is you also use tener, so it is literally, not literary, literally tango. It is literally I have and then your number of years. Remember that años is pronounced like an N and a Y. So yo are tengo 44 años. You can say tengo or yo tengo, but the only time the verb ends in O like that is with yo. So you can leave off the yo if you want. Really, the only time you can leave off the pronoun really is like yo, tú, and nosotros. Okay, these are phrases that they're just tener phrases. And in English, we use them with like is and are, but in Spanish, you have to use them with tener. Okay, here's the question of ¿cuántos años tienes? And then tengo 43 años. Okay. And then here's your conjugations. If it's one name, tiene, anything singular, that's not yo or tú, tiene. If it's plural, like the tú y Mario, and we have it set up where it's can be tenéis or tienen. Notice if I go back up here, this the nosotros and vosotros, they don't change to IE like tienes, tiene, and tienen do. We'll learn more about those spelling changes called stem changers in later units. Okay, and then this is with the months are not capitalized. And then so today is the 31st, so in English we would write we write 1-31 or 1/31. In Spanish and Spanish speaking countries and a lot of places around the world, the number of the date goes first, so like 31st of January. And so it's like hoy es el 31 de enero. Tomorrow will be 1/2, and it will be, as mañana es, el 1 de febrero. In Spanish, it's just the number, like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the date, of the number, the date. Except for the first, it is primero. I hid this activity on the homework online because it was very confusing, and so I just hid it because I don't want you getting caught up on that. I want you to go ahead and learn, like, do the other stuff. And then cumpleaños, when's your birthday? If your birthday is September 3rd, in English we would write like 9/3, but in Spanish it's 3/9. Mi cumpleaños es el 3 de septiembre. Okay, then the Spanish speaking countries, and there was an activity on that, where they're located. And then here is a review. Scroll through that a little bit. Of the vocabulary. And of course it's linked on it's linked on Quizlet. Okay, and that is all. Please reach out if you have any questions, and hopefully this video of review helped you.